Meet the finance high flyer with a passion for helping others.
Female leaders like me who have a responsibility, I think, towards the next generation of females who are entering the industry. I'm Zainab Kufaishi. I head up Invesco's Middle East and Africa business.
Zainab's at the top of her game, but she's faced many challenges along the way.
We flew after the Gulf War. Saddam had sort of tightened his grip on rule, and so we left thinking, we were going to go back in a couple of years and this was all be sorted out.
Zainab, thanks so much for joining us on the dialogue. Now, you're in charge of the Middle East and North African region for a company that looks after over $1 trillion worth of investment. But your journey started back in Iraq, didn't it? Can you tell us a bit about that?
We grew up at a time where it was the Iran-Iraq war, actually, in the 80s. So it was a time of conflict, although I have to say we didn't really feel it. Yes, with a dictator at the helm and a very autocratic rule, but I have to say from a kind of financial security perspective, it was a comfortable life. And then obviously Saddam had sort of tightened his grip on rule, and it was difficult.
Your journey was a protracted one, wasn't it? You left Iraq, you went to Algeria, and then to the UK. We
flew after the Gulf War, so I think my parents sort of saw the writing on the wall that this was going to get worse in terms of the sanctions regime and so on. They were academics, and by a stroke of luck, Algeria had implemented sort of an Arabization program across its curriculums to make sure that their curriculums are in Arabic. My parents applied for this sort of almost like an exchange program, and they both miraculously got it. But in the early 90s, sort of 91, 92, there was a rise of insurgency, unfortunately, in Algeria. And there was almost like a civil war. And it became clear that we needed to flee again. So that's really when we fled to the UK.
Kids can be cruel at the best of times, can't they? It must have been difficult for you landing in the UK and going to a British school. Was it difficult?
I spoke no English when I got to the UK at sort of age 11. I was bullied a little bit, and it was a strange experience because I didn't speak the language, so I didn't understand why they would bully somebody like me. But it's just when you're different, I suppose that's what happens when you see it. Kids don't know any better, so.
I don't know what sort of teenager you were, Zainab, but we do have a picture of you playing an electric guitar. I think were you a rebel? Can you remember what you used to play on the guitar?
That was just a one-off picture, so I don't want to give any false impressions. But yeah, a bit of a misspent youth, to be honest, Guy. I think I was not a very rebellious teenager. I very much focused on my studies and making sure that I do my parents proud. And I think many sort of immigrant girls in particular can probably identify with this. There is implicit pressure to be the best and to always overachieve. And my parents, obviously being who they are education-wise, made sure that I was continued to be sort of top of the class.
And you ended up moving into finance, obviously, which is where you are now. What sparked the interest? Was it something that happened accidentally, or was it something where you felt a real affinity with the industry?
I was sort of 16, 17, obviously because of my experience and heritage. I was very drawn to politics, and international politics, diplomacy in particular, and I really wanted to study that at school, at university. And my mother said, I think that's a good choice, although maybe couple it with economics, just to give it a little bit more robustness.
You were waiting for that but, weren't you? It's nice saying that.
It's great, go for it. But I did, I followed her advice, and that's where I fell in love with finance. And during sort of the latter part of my degree, I was very drawn to behavioral finance in particular, and the way sort of human psychology can influence markets and influence how people time the market and come in and out.
And it's a world, isn't it, that has traditionally been dominated by men.
We've still got a long way to go, I think. I probably did face some inbuilt biases, some hurdles along the way. I sort of chose not to see them, though, and I tried not to let them get in my way. I think it really is all about your mindset and how you view the world.
And now you are one of those few female leaders. I know that mentoring and encouraging others is really important to you, isn't it?
I think it's important for female leaders like me who have a responsibility, I think, towards the next generation of females who are entering the industry and who could see themselves in somebody like me, who is able to, build a successful career, to have worked hard to achieve the successes, but also have a personal life. I'm lucky to have 2 daughters. I have a family. I have a loving husband.
Our next award goes to Zainab Kufaishi.
Yes, I am on maternity leave, so thank you for inviting me. And I think it's important to be able to see that that balance can be achieved. It's probably not always a balance, it's probably more of a juggle.
And Zainab, you were here in Dubai when war broke out in Syria, and you saw, like all of us, the people fleeing into Europe. And when you saw those refugees and the difficulties that they were experiencing, I mean, it must have been particularly evocative for someone like you with your background.
I saw myself in those people on TV. And I just thought, well, if things had turned out differently, if my parents couldn't leave Iraq or couldn't leave Algeria, I would be on that boat. And so that really moved me. It was a strange feeling. It was almost like a calling, really. I just thought, I have to go. There's no way I can just sit here and not do anything. And I think just having that and being able to really listen on a human level, to really connect with someone on their bandwidth, to really understand, gosh, I can't even imagine what you're going through, and I can't even imagine the hopelessness that you feel, but I'm here for you. And please don't feel alone. You're not abandoned here in some camp in the middle of Greece.
Well, we've spoken about the world of refugee camps and the emotion and that part of your life. We've also spoken about your life as a leader in the finance sector. But do those worlds ever come together? Have you got any examples where the 2 worlds have met at all?
After I came back from the refugee camps, it was obviously a very moving experience. I was asked to present about my story and about sort of the month that I'd spent at the camps to about 200 people. And I mentioned the fact that there's this little girl that I really connected with who had a cleft palate and needed a very urgent surgery that she needed to get done. One senior director actually took me aside and said, look, I was going to do my kitchen. I was saving up to do my kitchen, and actually I'd rather not do that. I'd love to contribute and pay for all of this little girl's surgery. And I mean, I'm still getting goosebumps right now thinking about that.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Zainab, it's been such a joy to talk to you.
Thanks
so much for joining us on the dialogue.
Thank you, it's been wonderful.